All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Mimosa Hotline. Every Thursday, where Ronii Bartles, our business strategist, myself, Ashley Roda, go live with you. And today we are joined by guest expert, Christopher Dorsano from True Focus Production. And he is our videographer here in Chicago, aka one of my new A teams out here. And we wanted to bring him on today because he's kind of amazing. And we have standards and we love amazing humans. And Ronii had a one-on-one with him. I had a one-on-one with him, and we've just decided to keep him. So unfortunately, he is shackled here today to share his knowledge with us. And so we're just going to kind of dive in here. But I'm going to turn on the comments. You guys do something for me.
I was going to say, like, now he's stuck with us because, I mean, sorry, you get us.
Not sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry. Because we're pretty amazing too, but
yeah,
true.
So, Chris, I just want to tell our viewers some of your awesomeness really fast. So it turns out that you are the creative director of True Focus Production, which I just said, but this is a filmmakers based out of Chicago or Chicagoland, which I'm still not sure what the difference is. 10 years experience in video production. You have 25 industries that you've served and this is my favorite, edited over 2,500 videos. I'm surprised do you wear contacts at this point? Because like it's a lot to see.
I will say our team has edited 2,500.
All right. I like the team player part. And then you're focused on brand awareness, education, and promotional videos. So we're excited to have you and share your wisdom with people because I know video is often, they think an iPhone video is like, the next best thing. But when true videographers step on stage, it can be pretty magical what you guys create. So thanks for being here for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to just say, we might just jump straight into the juicy bit, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your career and like how you got to True Focus Production and just give us a little bit of the backstory or as much as you want.
Yeah, I'll switch it up a little bit. There's a long story, but I think I always like to go back to the very beginning because that's where the passion came in. I know a lot of people say do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, which I think is total bullshit. But there is some truth to it because when you're doing parts of what you love in any industry, you are enjoying the process. You are, you're bringing more enjoyment to your life. And so even though there's only like some days where I'm actually doing the parts that I love as the CEO, it does make it more fulfilling of the day to day. And I always look forward to those days, right? So for me, it's production. But going back, so little fun story. I went to Lyons Township High School. That's in LaGrange, of one of the burbs of the Chicagoland area, right on the outskirts. And I didn't know we had a production studio. I had no idea. And it's like one of the best in the state. And they have their own production truck. They're on, all the sports events. And I thought these were like Comcast that were out. And this is our own high school and students doing these programs. So I'm going to film school and my brother's in the TV program. He's a couple years younger than me. And I was looking for an internship and I was looking for like different work. And he's like, well, why don't you do some of the projects I've been working on with the school, and see if you like the projects we're working on and get to meet the instructor. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Like I would love to do, anything with the school. Like I loved LT. And so my brother brings me out on a bunch of different shoots. I'm filming. And then one day he's like, the instructor really wants me to be the cameraman for one of these shoots because you're always the guy on camera. He's like, would you mind being the actor for one of them? And I go, if I have to be. Like, I don't like being on the other side of the camera for the reason of why I got into filmmaking. And so I dressed up as a werewolf. And I have claws. We're in the middle of a cemetery. There's acorns all over the floor. Like we're completely just in the pitch black dark. We're playing music loud as heck because it's a music video. And I'm just like sweating my butt off. I'm in these big boots and I'm like, all right, can we go? Are we done yet? Like, I feel like we've been here all night. And my brother's like, all right, one last shot. And I promise it we'll leave. Like, this is it. I'm like, all right, fine. We'll do one more shot and then I'm out of here. So I pull up my car and I put the headlights on this one particular tombstone that's like under this really big tree. And he's like, what I want you to do is I'm going to put the camera right at the end and I want you to jump over the tombstone and I go into the camera and make a funny face. And I was like, oh yeah, because everyone's seeing my face. Like they're just seeing a mask, but fine. So I go to jump over this tombstone and I slip. And so in midair, I slip on an acorn and I hit the top of the tombstone and my arm goes back and the tombstone falls on top of my arm and breaks my humerus in half. You just hear in the video camera, just a crack.
Oh my
snap. And so my brother, who's just like this skinny kid who never worked out a day in his life, he gets an adrenaline rush and he like lifts this, 500-pound tombstone off my arm. And you just see me like my arm, I had surgery, so you can see a scar on my arm.
Oh,
I'm
ouch.
running away, and that's the last you see in the scene. So fast forward, this is a couple of years later. I'm looking for that internship, and I go to the school and I meet Bill for the first time. He's the instructor there. And I say, hey, I'm looking for an internship and I really just need some experience. I want to film for the Bulls. I hear you guys do like the basketball games at the school. And he's like, the kid that would break his arm for us, you got the job. And so it was from that point on forward, he taught me about video production and I got into the business world. And from there, that's kind of like how my journey began. He got me my first business client. It was an attorney. And I started doing brand films and educational films and all these different types of videos. And I loved it. I loved it better than the sports. I loved it better than everything else I was doing. And so when I really got down to working for these business clients, I'm like, I could do this for myself. I don't even need to work for someone else. Like there's enough businesses around the entire Chicagoland area that I don't need to work for a company. So here I am 10 years later, still working with businesses, still working with marketing agencies like yourselves, and really just putting on the best content I can for my clients.
I love that. I feel like, we all like to have this beautiful picture of how we get into business, but I think many of us share a painful incident that got us into what we did. But I mean, you got a legit scar.
I have a legit. It is. I mean, if you want to see the whole thing, it goes all the way up my shoulder.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
was it like a fissure fracture? Did it break through the skin?
I think some people would say they botched the surgery, but I've seen a lot of people with the same scar.
Okay.
So basically what they had to do was they had to put a metal plate from the top of the arm down. And I didn't know this, but they said that because they're like, oh, we're just going to put a little incision and we'll put the bar. They just literally made a huge cut all the way down, put that bar in, and then I had 32 staples. So what was a little incision to me, like when I came out of the surgery, was not what I was anticipating. I'm like, I look like Frankenstein right now. So it was not fun.
That also translates to business about clear communication. And when we say little things that turn out big things, and then just how all of us, all of our work, people think are little projects. I just want a video. I just want marketing. I just want branding. And we're like, let me tell you, it's going to be this big. And they're like, no, it's going to be little. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a 30-second video. We promise 20-minute video. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that. So let's play a little too, because Ronnie and I represent the branding and the marketing of things. And you've mentioned that that's a huge element into your business. I also want to just give you props for having your t-shirt branded for you and just being on brand. I see you. I know what you're doing. It looks great. But I'm curious because you were talking about, the importance of brand and brand videos. And you said this morning you even had a client try and get by the brand of things. So do you want to share about that too?
Yeah. And I think this is important for even business owners to understand is I was so caught up in the process of my creative side that in the start of my business, I used to only take the footage, put together the end product, and then just send them an email with the video saying, hope you like it. And if they got back to me with things they needed changed, great. If they need whatever. And sometimes I wouldn't hear back for months. And I'm like, oh, it buys me more time to do other work, right? But it wasn't until recently that I recognized, hey, I should probably jump on a call with people and go over the project together and help them understand at a better level what we could do better, what is working well and what isn't. And I've been doing that for the past couple of years now, and it's changed the way my relationship is with my client, but also the quality of our work has improved because of it. And this morning's call was a perfect example of that. Is we do what's called a data dump in the very beginning with working with a business, so that we have their logo, we have their fonts, we have their color guide. Like, we know everything that's going to match their website, match their social media. We want to make sure that the video is also following those same guidelines. And if we don't have that, we're just guessing. We're using programs to like hopefully get close to that color, or we're getting close to that font. And this was a perfect case. I had the logo from their website. I had the colors. I think it was perfect from their website. It could be, and then there's the then there's the fonts. Right. So I didn't have the fonts that he had. And we did this 20-minute long video, and we did the titles. We did the lower third. That's the titles are on the lower third, the names, and sometimes what they do for the work, and then individual chapters. So like before each section, and we did like motion graphic design, like you see it like spin in or like pop in, and like there's over 40 different assets that we used that had text on it. And we get on this call and he goes, yeah, the font just doesn't match the same font we use in our new marketing with our brand. And was that something we can update? And it's in cases like that that I'm like, it would have been nice to know, one, that they're rebranding and they are changing their fonts. But two, prior to the shoot, usually I'll wait until we get the actual, like, no, you need to send us this. But they were still on a time crunch. We need this now. We need this fast, which is
They
very
always are. I hate time crunch.
It's always that way. And so, we need this done by July 1st. Well, I gave it to them before, middle of May. And here we are, July 6th. They're just getting back to me. And this is a common thing. So I think it's really important when business owners who don't do this full time are working with a brand or a marketing expert, because they know what you need. They know how to get those things fast. And it's easy for me to communicate with them to get the end result that they're looking for. And I can do all those things, but if it's not provided to me, it's just chaotic, and they don't get their deadlines on time. So yeah, perfect example from this morning when it comes to branding and all of that.
Yep. So common though. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've run into it. And fonts are the worst, because you're trying to match them, and there are like 600 other fonts that are just close enough. You're like, it's so close, but it's not right.
The subtleties, like the capital, like S is right, but the lowercase s isn't right, or like the like and of course, like they just see it's a script font, so it's a script font, it's fine, and you're like, but like the R, like I don't know about you guys, but R's are another one. Just the way that every script has them is one that really stands out to me. And
A's for me.
Like, A's, yeah.
A's.
It's like there's that like traditional R that like loops and then has that horizontal and then down, then there's the other R up here, then there's the like just R loop, and I'm always like,
But I think no one understands like you guys typography. Like if I use the word kerning or leading, does anyone else who's even watching this understand what I'm talking about? No. Only someone who went to film school, like I got a bachelor's degree in filmmaking, only someone who was forced to be 3 months in front of a typography class would understand what that means. And for those who want to know what it means, it's the spacing in between the letters. So you might have the exact A or the exact S, but it might be spaced out too far apart or too close.
Or even the width, or the weight of it, like is just basically how wide it is or thin it is. And like, it's just, there's so much differentiation in it. And it's like clashes if it's not done right. Like you'll look at it, and even a blind eye that doesn't have the training that all of us have, they'll look at it and they'll be like, I don't know, there's just something, like I can't pinpoint it. It's I don't know. And it's like, you do have strategy behind design where you want to make the looker look longer, but not out of error.
There should be intentionality behind every creative part of the design. Absolutely.
Yes. I was just actually making a creative brief, which is also a one-page outline of basically the fonts, the logos, some of the direction. Mine's actually turned out way too long, but it was because there's a lot of details I need in this. And it's actually a photographer working with a website developer. And what I thought was very interesting about this is they're both in the creative industry. So they both should have the understanding of like what the other one needs, but not at all. Like the photographer basically paid a deposit And then like, that was it. And then the website developer had no intake that I know of like what his aesthetic was or how he wanted it designed or what any of the assets were. And we even talked about doing a logo enhancement. And I was like, okay, well, that should be done before you go to the website. And, you know, it's like, I feel like we're almost like professional chefs that know these like recipes for success of like, you have to have words and pictures and like a business to put into a website. Yet people think that they're psychics and just create it, you know, like, oh, I need a website, so they're going to build it. But it's like, from what, honey? From what?
And that's why web designers typically love the work that we do, because even if we do only videos, video is such high quality that they could export stills for like photos, even if it's like a little tiny thumbnail on the bottom of the site. Like, it's just content that you wouldn't have otherwise. And everybody knows, here's one tip I could give on websites that I've learned very early on. When you take stock photos and put it on a site or even video, what you're telling that audience, that viewer, is that I'm lying to you and you shouldn't trust me. Because if they can't trust that you are going to use actual people from your office on your home office about us page, what are you hiding? You're not showing that you're authentic of a company. So anytime anyone ever says the word stock, I really like step back and think, well, is it to get the feel of a location, or like you're saying, or the concept design to match the style? If it's just because we want to pretend like we have a 5-person team and to put it on our About Us page to have content, it's not going to work. It's doing the opposite of what they think it's doing.
Guys, I have the worst story to share right now, but it's hilarious. I was on a date this weekend and the guy literally was like, you know, I've been thinking I should get some, you know, non-prescription glasses because like yours looks so good. Like, I think I want to have that appearance. And like when I'm working and I want to look smart too. And I was like, I'm going to say that, do you, boo? Like, don't try and be something that you're not. And like, if you need glasses, wear damn glasses. But like, I promise you, when I take them off, I need a sing eye dog. I'm blind as a bat. Like, I need them. But like, this is not something. I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you posing? Like, you are smart. You don't need glasses to be smart. Like, I'm smart. I don't need them to have like. That's what reminds me of this, because I was so dumbfounded. And thank God I had a martini, because I was like, oh, this date needs to be done soon. Like, how do I get out of this? But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like these, and stock imagery too. I want to give it also another side too, can be very helpful when it's selected correctly and strategically, that, as you said, has a complementing vibe of your business or represents it in a way. But yes, it can be very deterring and very generic is my word often. Like, it just doesn't even look like them, or it doesn't have their vibe, or it's too corporate often, or too like something that they're just not, because, well, the website developer had to use something and they know nothing about you. So like, they're just gonna stick it and slap it and call it good. And like, nah, it's scary. Stock imagery is interesting, but you know, many of us have access to it now, which is also dangerous, through Canva and through, I don't know, other platforms, but Creative Market, all those things. Like, there's access now, and people are just kind of, when left alone, dangerous to their own brands. They think that they are branding themselves. And how many of you have heard this one? Oh, but it's my favorite colors. I'm like, one of my very first projects, actually, I had a CFO and it was out of the red into the black. You know, that's like the goal of finance. And she had a brand that was all baby blue, baby green kind of color palette. And it was cute. It was fine. It worked. But she got a lot of young, needy boy professional clients, and none of them made a lot of decisions and weren't very decisive. And when we addressed that, I was like, I think I know why. And all we did was, and thank God she had a great logo. So it was like a chevron repeated, and we did a gradient from the red to black. And all of a sudden she got very decisive, opinionated, strong-willed kind of clientele. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what your favorite colors are if it doesn't psychologically reflect what the business does and needs to attract. So I'm with you all the way. And clearly I could talk about this till I'm blue in the face, but just saying.
Yeah, I think colors design is also embedded in video production too. So to your point, like if you have something that's blue, it's building trust and, different colors for different reasons. And the same thing goes with stock footage too, because you can color grade stock footage to make it feel a certain way.
Yeah.
But then you're paying a color grade artist to get that taken care of. And most people don't even know to do that. And then when it's advised, like, oh, you're going to pay $60 on Shutterstock for this image. And then you're going to pay $150 for this to be color graded to make it look and blend in with the film.
Just do a shoot.
At that point, you're paying a couple $100 and you might as well
get a shoot.
Go film it. Yeah. If it's on an iPhone, at least it's authentic. Yeah. So there's a lot of different discrepancies I have when it comes to how to use it and the right times, for sure.
Absolutely. What's your focus been this year with business? Like, are you focusing more on one service versus another, or just kind of scaling things? What's the focus been?
Yeah, so I've been trying to figure out, like, how can I use the time I spend with business owners to the best of my ability? Because business owners are very busy and they have a lot of different things that are going on. And I've been trying to say, okay, how can we get as much content as possible from one production day, rather than I come out and just do one video, and if that video doesn't work, it was just a waste of time, or they feel like it's a waste of time. So what I've been doing is I say, let's figure out a brand film, which I think everyone should have at some point if you're an established business. So a brand film is like who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And that's usually on the homepage or somewhere near the homepage, maybe in the About Us section. And what I've been trying to do is, all right, well, you also have social media that your social media manager needs a lot of content for. So let's not just do one video, let's do 10. And the best way to do that is to have a pre-production meeting, which is a meeting we have before the shoot, to kind of go over what is the different types of things we could film at your event. So I'll use the client I spoke to this morning. We did 6 videos in a 6-hour day. So let's call it a video an hour on production. We interviewed 2 of the CEOs and 4 of the staff members and 2 of the 2 clients. So they had 2 testimonial videos, they had 4 production videos, and then a brand film video. And we were able to do, we call it a composite video, which is basically a long form video that's like 5 minutes long, talking about the company. Then you see the people in the company, and then you hear the clients talking about the company. It's like they see who you are, what you do, who your team is, and the results of your work. It's everything a client wants to see all at once. And so then you see samples of their work, because you can show photos from previous jobs, if it's in the service industry, or the products that they have. So what we usually try to do is create as much content as possible. And I know it's a lot of work in the front end, but in the back end, we spent only 10 minutes with each of the CEOs, and they were like in and out. They had to like get in, get out. They had a ton of stuff to get to. One of them came in right for the shoot and then just left. So I understand like time being of value, and we try to make sure that once we get there, we're there an hour before production starts, so that when the talent comes in, whoever that is, it's all set up and ready to go. We're efficient. We make whoever hired us look like they just found the best production company that they could possibly work with, and we make them shine. Or like we make sure that person that hired us, if it's a marketing person inside the team, or the CEO with his team, we're going to make him look as good as he possibly can. We're going to get out of there as fast as possible. We're going to create a ton of content. And so when we're doing all that stuff, branding is definitely on that list in the pre-production side of things, because the colors we use for the lighting, the colors we have as items on the background, we want it to match the brand, the style, and the look and the feel that they're trying to go for. So we've really been trying to figure out, how can we get content for people, and how can we work with them regularly? So maybe it's like once a quarter we come out and do these, 6 videos, and they're posting stuff online constantly all year long. And we're building a relationship. We're seeing what's working, what's not working. We're working with your marketing team and going, did this video perform well? Did it not? If it didn't, what could we do better? Where did people fall off? Where did they watch the video? There's all these components that are embedded in doing multiple videos. gone are the days where you film one video and you hope it works and you don't know if it gives you the value you're looking for. There's so many different ways to track the performance of a video these days that you'll know, within the first 3 months of tracking it, whether it's working or not. So that's what we've been doing in the past, I'd say 2 years. And we've been doing that for different industries, mechanics, chiropractors, doctors, just whoever has something where they need content on a regular basis. And I'd say that's most people. And if they can do it and be good on camera and feel comfortable on camera, we're happy to work with them.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like for me, being the CEO of Simplicity, I like processes like that where I'm like, it's efficient. Like I need it to be as efficient as possible and give me the best result as possible. Like, I mean, I agree with you. It used to be, I worked for a software company a couple of years ago, and that was one of the first things we wanted to do was a brand video. And, we had our theme and we hadn't even really established the brand. It was a free software. It was a mess. And, we did pre-production and we didn't know what we were doing. And the videographer was kind of, a friend of a friend. And I mean, it was a mess. And we spent, I know, a full 8-hour day, if not a 10-hour day, filming. And I think we got maybe a 2-minute video that we ended up never using because by the time we were done, it wasn't on brand anymore. So it's like the videographer needed, because it was a friend of a friend, we know how this goes, our 5 F words, right? Like they didn't prepare us for what they needed. Like it was, the prep work was just like all over the place. And we wanted to do, like, we had these big grandiose ideas that this was going to be like Arrested Development, and that was kind of irreverent, the whole thing. And like, we couldn't even find a location. It was a whole like mess. And I think by the time we were done, I think we ended up spending like $10,000 on a 2-minute video that we never even used. Wow.
And that's another thing to address too, is like how much this wild thought that you can save yourself money by using a friend of a friend in the cheapest of things, that when you invest in an expert like Chris or Ronnie or myself, like the money you save in getting it done right the first time versus like learning. And then by the end, I have a client too that says she became a brand strategist the day she said no to me, and then trying to figure it out herself with all the moving pieces. And then she came back to hire me. She's like, now I see why you charge what you charge, and it is worth every penny. And I was like, yeah. And there's so much that goes into this. So, and the brand narrative that you create, that's another thing that I don't think people are really understanding is, everyone thinks they have a company, they think they have a business, they think they have a brand, but there's a storyline that goes through all of that connects the dots in a compelling and converting way that I think is your skill set, and Ronnie's too. You guys put words to that success. You put words to the effort that they do every day. And, CEOs and business people, we want as much help as we can in converting our clients. And we think that just showing up, doing our skill is all that it's needed. And it's not. And I think both of you could speak to this, the power of marketing, sharing your story with others, but also Chris capturing that story. And, the 5 minutes, while that seems like, for me, that's 20 laps in a pool because I'm a swimmer and that's how I think. But 5 minutes can make or break a sale. And it can also show the inner workings of something that you can't capture. It's not that it's too close to yourself, but you need that outside service to capture your essence. You don't always have the privilege or opportunity to share what you do, tell people what you do. Sometimes they're saying yes to you from a block away or no from a block away.
Yeah, I think you're right on that point, but also people aren't always comfortable. And this is the biggest pullback I get. Like, I'm not comfortable to be on camera. And what I always challenge people before they hire a company or the friend of the friend, even before they even think about spending $1 on putting themselves in front, I always say, film yourself on your phone and do it regularly. You don't have to post it. You don't have to share it. At least not in the beginning. I wouldn't recommend it. But get familiar with it. Get familiar with just seeing yourself. And it's one of those things. It's like, until you've done it a bunch of times, you won't know any better. And then, even maybe you have a good take and you do post it and it's okay. And maybe it performs okay. But I love the clients that come to me and say, we tried this in-house. We did it on an iPhone. It was okay. It didn't really perform the way we wanted to perform. And we're looking to hire a professional. Like those are the people I'm like, okay, you're ready. You've understood the process and the value that comes into this. Because sometimes when they hire you right away and it's so good and they see the process and it's so smooth, they're like, oh, we could have done that.
Right. Oh, right. True. Yeah.
We can do that. And then sometimes they'll work with us. They'll have a great production. And then the next year they're like, well, we'll try it on our own this time. And then I get the call literally the next month saying, yeah, let's try that again.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can say Ronnie and I have a shared client that does that to me often. She's like, oh, okay, I got this now. And then, okay, then I'll see you in a couple. I just had somebody, she had okay, so this doesn't make sense to me and I love her, so it's fine. But she basically got not a VA, it was more than a VA, but like an executive assistant, right? Who was helping her set up Honeybooks. So like her project management system. And somehow she thought that person could create graphics. I'm sorry, I should laugh. I can't help myself. But so the things that I got, I was like, this is like adult decoupage, like kids kind of like, I don't know that this is a graphic of any sort. And like the one that she had picked for her invoice quite literally had her, like hands out, big face. I was like,
I call those T-Rex claws when people are like, I've had so many times on camera where they're talking and they're like trying to emphasize a point and they're like going like this. I'm like, are you trying to claw at the camera? Like this does not look appealing to people.
That's hilarious.
That's a good pro tip when you're filming.
You can do the power pose, you can do the fist, but never the claws. Just
it's not appropriate. Yeah. And then I plow out these 40 graphics at a cafe and I was like, I may have lost my touch. I don't even know if I'm doing this right. And she's crying out of happiness saying that they're the best thing she's seen. I was like, okay, good. So we still have a standard here, but even as simple as a graphic, I still have to know what the fonts are. I still have to know what the aesthetic is. I still have to know and the aesthetic, I want to go back to that. The vibe, the energy that I'm trying to capture. Like if you don't know that, if you've never taken the pulse of the business and you don't know the flavor of it, you're just stabbing in the dark. And I think it's frustrating for us, but I think it's also frustrating for the client. But at the same time, I'm like, I need to teach you what you need to know. And Ronnie and I talk about this a lot. Like, well, this would be a great question. What is the base knowledge a business owner should have about videography before hiring a videographer? Like we're always talking like, you got to at least know these things. You don't have to be a brand strategist. You don't have to be a marketer, but like, what are maybe, I don't know, pick 3, 5, I don't know, but just some of those base things that someone should know before.
Yeah. I mean, so like, let's say someone's selecting a video team.
Yeah.
And like, what questions should you ask that videographer to understand if they're the right fit?
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
So the one thing I always ask is, what industry are they in? There's a lot of filmmakers who they film weddings on the weekends and they have a full-time job. And if they don't work with businesses regularly, they don't understand the ebb and flow of what that looks like typically. I'm not saying that there aren't videographers that do weddings that aren't great at business, but I would always ask, like, what's your day-to-day look like? Is this full-time for you, or is this just something like it's a fun hobby? Secondly is I always like to know, like, what's the sample that they want it to look like? What's something that either this person has filmed in the past that looks similar to what they're going for, or just what's another competitor that they saw a video that they're like, this is kind of what I'm going for. Mm-hmm. Look at the quality of that. Look at the movements of the camera. Look at the colors. Listen to the audio. Does it sound good? Does it look good? Does it have a certain energy? And then look at that person's work. And it's like, do you think that they're capable of making what you want it to look like? Yep. And so like a lot of people will come to me and they're like, yeah, I think I need a brand film. My website guy said I need a video on my homepage. And it's like, well, great, but do a little research and find out what style or vibe you're going for. I think I can't harp on that enough. That's one of our main questions in our beginning of our branding is like, send us a sample of what you're looking for. If we don't have it on our site, send me something that you want us to replicate, because otherwise I have no idea what direction you're trying to go in.
Yeah.
Even photos can be good for that. And then lastly, I mean, budget. I know that there's people that don't want to show their hand, and that's fine. I understand. And I put my pricing on my website for that reason. It's like, hey, we're fully transparent. We're not trying to nickel and dime you. Like, we're trying to figure out what can you afford. And if they send me a sample of something that looks like a 4-person team, a full-time gaffer, an audio engineer, 2 camera ops, it's like, and your budget's $500, it's like, well, that's not going to work. So what the way I work it, and I know other videographers do it differently, so it depends on who you're talking to. You can ask the video guys, how do they operate with their rates? Do they just pay a half-day rate, full-day rate, or do they operate by project? Because one of the first questions I ask in our questionnaire is, what's the budget range? Don't give me a number. Don't say like, we have $1,000 allocated to this. Great. Well, we're probably not going to be able to stick to that number depending on what you're looking for. Because the scope changes. As we both know, 30-second video to a 5-minute video is a big difference in editing time and everything else. So when the budget ranges, what I usually try to say is like, is it trying to stay under 1,000? Is it 1,000 to 2,000? Is it 2,000 to 5,000? Because then I know, okay, they could afford to have this color graded after to look however they want it to look. So we could shorten the production. We don't need as many lights and things of that nature. We can have a full production team, or maybe we don't, if the budget's lower. So I always ask that question in the beginning, and I say, hey, look, the cards are on the table. My pricing is on my website. Whatever you tell me is your budget range, I'm showing you how I'm allocating our pricing to match your budget.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would just put a huge warning sign for video guys who are doing it part-time or doing it on the side, is they'll say like, yeah, I'll do it for $1,000, but what are they doing? What are they providing? Like, look at that estimate and see what gear are they using. You could even look up how much their camera costs. Like, if you look up my camera setup in my rig and you see it's like a $20,000 setup and it's something that they use in Hollywood, you're like, okay, like, just for me to rent this camera rig setup for the day would cost me just as much as paying this guy to do it and the full production. So yeah, I would say those are the 3 top things that I would look for when you're looking even to hire any video person.
I love how you share about the allocation of funds. Like, to me, there's so much integrity in that, because you're not even like just taking the job and doing the job. You're like getting the the bang for the buck or whatever. Like, you're getting the most for their money and doing the best that you can for them. And I think that's another reason. I mean, hello, A-team. Saying, like, there's a reason that people make the A-team and a reason that not everyone does. Like, the integrity and just the transparency and the loyalty to the client, and saying, like, also what you said about, make sure there's someone that knows the intricacies of a business, because a wedding, I don't think you'd want a business videographer doing your wedding in the same way. Like, I think people think it's like, oh, well, they did my wedding, so they're great, but it's like, you need a different perspective from that. But Ronii, do you have anything towards that?
No, I mean, I just, talking about budget, I know people hate to tell you what their budget is because they think, oh, you're going to like go to the max because I've told you what my budget is. But let me tell you, it's really hard to be like, my services are worth a $10,000 price point, and I present it to you. Like, let's self-qualify ourselves here so we're not wasting each other's time. Like, if I'm looking at you going, you know what, my hourly rate is $250, and you're like, I can't afford but $50, like, let's self-qualify so that we're not, wasting each other's time. So I know people get really kind of touchy about prices on websites, and I will say I can go either way. It depends on the brand and the company and what they're doing, but I'm a big fan because I can then look at it and go, do I qualify or not? Like, I might love your work, but if my budget isn't there, then it's just not there. Why waste both of our times?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Options. Yeah. Because I mean, what happens for me is they'll tell me their range, and it's like, well, here's the bottom of your range budget and what you get. here's what I would recommend, or maybe, I'll recommend which one, whatever section. And then here's the max of your budget. And this is what that can look like, so that they can make the choice for themselves. It's like, and sometimes I have examples of what those look like. This is a one person, like for live events, for example, like we do a lot of corporate events. It's like, this is what looks like with one camera operator with a wide shot and getting a close up with that second. That one is not manned, it's just a wide shot. And the other person getting the second shot. This is switching between those two cameras. This is what that looks like. Here's the 3 camera shoot with a 3-person crew and a sound mixer. And this is the top of your budget. And this is what that looks like. And when you can see visually what you're getting, you can make the choice for yourself. Yeah, that's what's in our budget, and that's fine. We're okay with that. Or no, we need the best. Let's go all out. This is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Not everyone has that when they're new in the industry, because they don't have the work to showcase for it. And sometimes if you're a videographer and you're watching this, like, you have to go out and do this stuff for free to show that you can do it and what your capabilities are. I can't tell you how many productions I did when I first started this, just to go out. And I would say to people, I'll do it for free, but if you want to pay me for it, pay me what you think I'm worth. And sometimes I get paid more than I actually was anticipating. I would have even charged myself.
That's
So
awesome.
you can't use that as a tool, but I can't harp on that enough, is, showing a range and different options. I know it takes time. And like you had just mentioned, Ronnie, like, you don't want to waste anyone's time. So if they have the budget range and you're making a proposal with 3 options, you're not wasting your time putting together all of those, in that proposal, because it could take you an hour to write a good, solid proposal. And, for them to just say, this is way out of our budget, that hurts both of us. You didn't get what you're looking for, and I just spent an hour, trying to get you what you're not looking for. So you're right. It is a crucial component.
I totally fall prey to that all the time. I'm not gonna lie. Because I'm like, I want to recommend like what they need. And it's like, you need all of this. But then sometimes I'm like, okay, I got to meet you where you're at. Fine. We'll take off half. Like, it's fine. But I get into mine. I think because like as a designer, and Ronnie's seen mine are pretty at this point. So I just get all into it. And I'm like, I got to get off of that. But I love it. Let's see. Who's a good, like, I mean, obviously you have such an amazing range and an incredible portfolio, but like, is there one that you just really love? Like, it sounds like you already told us a little bit. It's the one that has tried it themselves and then come back and is like, okay, now I need a pro at this. But like, is there an industry that you really like, or has there been a project you worked on recently that you're like, oh, okay, that was fun. I want another.
Yeah. I mean, I love partnering with people in marketing per se. So if you have someone who's in marketing, who's an agency, and they say they do video, but they outsource it, or they don't say they do video, but they do partner with other video people. I love working with marketers because we speak, as all of us know, like, we speak the same language, and it just makes all of our jobs easier. I'm creating content, I'm getting the assets I need. Everything kind of ebbs and flows better. If I'm niching down industry wise, I work with like 3 or 4 different marketing agencies, PR agencies that are in the healthcare space. And so we've learned to like help them optimize their systems and processes. And, they're more so educational films and less of the brand stuff, but more of like, we need to create a 10 video project about, this different program that we have in this department. And they have 100 departments, and all of them have their own budgets. They all have their own, sometimes their own marketing teams will manage different parts of it. So we love working with them in particular because we understand the industry and they understand our industry. And they typically have the budgets to be able to make them look as best as possible. And we're all about creating the best possible quality content that we can. And so that's just a particular like industry lead that we love. But as you mentioned in my intro, we've worked in 25 different industries. We've, in the past 10 years, we love working with all business owners, big or small. But that it would be the ideal person that we love to partner with in general.
I love that. Ronnie, do you have any questions for our guest today?
Well, I mean, I was just gonna I know that we talked a lot about brand videos and, taking long form piece of content, breaking it down into smaller chunks. I think a lot of our audiences are going to be entrepreneurs. And so like, what are some tips that, we can kind of take back if, we're low on budget and, or we're trying to at least get ourselves to a point where we have a better budget for you. Like what are some of those things that we can do on social media or like, I know I'm one of those people. I love to be on camera, but I don't want to do it by myself. So what are some tips like to get ourselves some content in that regard that we can at least, get ourselves started on our path to getting to work with you?
Yeah, I think because people can come to us and just say, hey, we want this edited too, right? They don't have to do a production. They can just say, hey, we need some editing. We filmed some content. And so like doing even what we're doing right now is like being on a video call and being able to chop up these sections of, oh, that was a really good one. I need to share that with my audience and just splice it. Hey, check out, this talk I did with Mimosa Hotline. And, this was something that was a golden nugget for me. And I hope this is beneficial for you. Then people can see that. Also, it brings them to the full talk, but then also it's promoting their brand. And all you need to do is even in Canva, like we were mentioning before, cut it, export it, and then see how that performs. The more content you could put out there that's video and you see like, wow, this performs 20 times better than a photo or 100 times better than text, you're gonna want to do more of it. And that's just kind of like the ebb and flow of like how to create content for yourself without having a huge video production budget. I would just recommend use video in a way that works for you.
I like that you shared that you'll do the editing of like our, craziness, but at the same time, I also want to put out there, would you ever potentially do a half day with somebody that needed to batch videos and like, be like, hey, I just want you to set this up and I've got like 5 different videos I need to capture. Would you do something like that too for like a content creator?
So on the opposite end of things, we also provide raw footage to a lot of people who have, so a lot of marketing agencies have in-house editors. And so they just need a production team to come out and film, and then we give them the raw, especially a lot of our European clients, because they're having their whole production team overseas, but they don't want to fly out their team over here. So we'll film a bunch of content for a half day, full day, and then we'll just send it over online, all of the raw footage. So there's those cases that come up all the time.
Yeah,
I think editing is client out of Ronnie. She's all excited. I can see her. She's like
editing is like the vein of my existence. I can do it. I have done it. I hate it. Yeah, it's this is why we have people like Chris, because I hate doing that, and I don't want to do it.
It takes a certain type of person, and like I was saying before, where you wear multiple hats, you really refine what you enjoy. And for me, like I have an editing team for a reason. I'm not the type of person that likes to sit in front of a computer for 8 hours a day and put together these stories. I like to be on set creating stories and working with the client. And like, it's always like a big shock when I take out like a makeup kit because someone looks very blushed or is very shiny. And I say, oh, here, let me, use this. And like, they're cleaning up their face and they're like, what, you're a makeup artist too? Like, what else are you on set? And it's just like, well, we want it to look the best as possible. We don't want you to be all shiny like I am right now. And we want to really just try to make you look your best in your best light. And we know that makeup is a big component of that. And so we have those types of things in our kit. And I personally I love that aspect of it. I love being on set and being with the crew. And then my team back home, while I'm on set doing productions, they're working on your stuff. So those of you who love Amazon and next day delivery, we can crank out edits a lot faster than most videographers because we have a team putting it together and editing it while we're still on set or on a phone call with you. They're getting it done still. So we usually have turnaround times closer to a week, where most production companies, you're talking 3-4 weeks before you might even ever see that video. Yeah. So there is that component of having the right team members in the right place, but then also wearing the hat that you enjoy the most in this industry. Yeah.
I'm only laughing because I've only seen Ronnie act like this in probably like pawn shops with diamonds. Like she's in it. She's ready. She's I like this.
I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, we say this all the time of you need to know just enough how to do things to manage your vendors well, because it is very easy for vendors to come in and are like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about, so I can take advantage of this. It does happen. I hate to say that, but it does. And so like, this is one of those instances where I'm like, okay, I did it. I don't like it. I'm done. Like, I mean, even with Mimosa Hotline, we've even seen it. We've both talked about like, all right, if we're expanding this thing, we need somebody to edit for us because neither one of us want to do it. Somebody needs to do show notes because neither one of us want to do
We
it.
have like a standard too. Like I think our problem too is that we have a standard of excellence. And so like when we do it, we know that it's our own botched ass job that we're like, this should not have been done this way. And I mean, that's been one of the fun things about this show. It's a passion project that we are kind of seeing how and where it goes and what happens to it, but all of the things. So we're kind of at the top of our hour. So any final thoughts, emotions, questions, outbursts from anyone?
No, sorry, I forgot my mimosa. I've been drinking water, so I didn't know if that was
Well, I do only have coffee today, so
I have
okay.
nothing,
No,
so
no.
it's safe. We're like the Mimosa Hotline that doesn't drink mimosas. We just did the other day for like the first time. But before we let you go, Chris, what are the best ways for people to connect with you? Your website, your socials, like, I mean, because Ronnie needs to call you immediately after this call.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to my website, truefocusproductions.com, that's true, TRU without the E, Focus Productions. We have a bunch of sample work on there. They could see our pricing is all, like I said, transparent. And you can just go to the contact page, either call us directly. We have a 1-800 number on there. You can dial 700 to talk to me directly. If not, if you have a project that comes up in a few months and you see this and, it's something that's interesting to you, I mean, we have a contact form. That's usually the best way, is just tell me as much as you can about the project. So when we jump on that phone call, we do understand the scope of what you're looking for.
I love it. Well, thank you for joining us today. This was very insightful and fun and helpful and all of the things. And for Mimosa Hotline listeners, watchers, all of the things, we go live every Thursday for you with our own insights, guest experts like Chris from the A-Team and other sources. And we'll see you next time. Bye, guys. All right. So